It's Goldman Diaries. The night looked perfect. Friends over. Wine open. Warm lights. Soft music. Laughter around the table. I moved between the kitchen and the dining room, refilling glasses, checking the oven. David was glowing, animated, leading every conversation. He always is. That night, he was deep into some book on cities and psychology. Hands flying, eyes shining. I just smiled, poured more wine. Then kind Tom looked at me and said, "You read so much, Rachel. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you wrote a novel someday." I froze. Not from fear. From surprise. No one ever asked me that. I smiled, just a little. Drew in breath to say something. Anything. Just maybe. And then David laughed. Loud. Confident. Without hesitation. He looked at Tom, then said, "Rachel writes grocery lists. That's as far as she goes." The table erupted. Not cruel laughter, but casual. Comfortable. Like it was true. Like it was funny. Someone added, "Not everyone's a literary genius, Dave." Another laughed. "Hey, Lister's still writing." I smiled too. Of course I did. What else was I supposed to do? Inside, I was stoned. I stared at my plate. Food gone cold. Laughter still echoing in my ears. It didn't matter that I read every night. That I marked lines in the margins. That I sometimes imagined stories while folding laundry. In their eyes, I was a woman who made good soup and wrote grocery lists. David kept talking. Moved on. Shifted topics. Books. Publishing. Language. Everyone followed. No one looked at me. No one saw my silence. But something in me cracked. Not a scream. Not even a whisper. Just a dull, cold snap. Like something inside had reached its limit. Saturday. Book fair. Crowded, loud, packed with paper and noise. David headed straight for his zone, nonfiction, theory, stiff covers. I drifted upstairs. No plan. Just wanted air. And then I saw it. A small side room. No labels. Faded carpet. Low shelves. Books with pastel covers. Names I didn't recognize. Women's fiction. I reached out. One cover caught my eye, soft pink, plain font. A girl by a window. I flipped it open. Somewhere near the middle. Just one paragraph. And something cracked open. I read another. Then another. The world around me blurred. There was a woman in the book. She wasn't loud. She wasn't wild. But she had a voice. A pain. A truth. My hands started shaking. I sat down. Right there on the floor. Didn't even care. Kept reading. And suddenly, in my mind, she appeared. Not from the book. From me. A woman, standing by a river. Wind in her coat. A silence that screamed. I didn't know her name yet, but I knew her heart. I closed the book and whispered to myself, I could do this. I want to do this. The ride home was a blur. David talked the whole way, some book, some theory, some boring point he'd already made 10 times. I didn't hear a word. I stared out the window, but in my head, the first line, the first page, the entire story building itself like a storm. She was walking fast. Someone had just left her. She was drowning, but not visibly, not in tears. Quietly. Inside. I saw it all, scene by scene. She was begging me to tell it. By the time we pulled into the driveway, I couldn't breathe. My fingers itched. My pulse was racing. At dinner, I barely ate. David didn't notice, too busy explaining some article. I was waiting, watching the clock. When he finally put on his headphones and started his movies, I stood up, walked to the spare room, shut the door, opened my laptop. The screen stared back at me, blank. I took a breath, typed the first sentence. Eleanor hadn't spoken to anyone in 3 days. And just like that, I was alive again. That first night, I only meant to try. Just a few lines. Just to see. David was in the living room, headphones on, eyes glued to his screen. I sat in the spare room, laptop on my knees, hands cold, typed one line, then another, then a third, and suddenly it was happening. The story didn't wait. It poured out. Her world, her voice, her silence. I didn't have to force it. I just followed her. 1 hour turned into 2. When I closed the laptop that night, my heart was pounding. Not from fear. From wanting to do it again. Next morning, the usual. Coffee, eggs, dishwasher hum. David reading something, nodding at his phone. I sat across from him, smiling like nothing happened. Like I didn't just meet someone new inside my head last night. That evening, the same routine. Dinner. A show. Headphones on. I waited. And when the time came, I was back at it. Scene 2. Then 3. Then 5. I didn't tell anyone. Not even him. Especially not him. Because I knew what he'd say. A novel? You just read fluff, Rachel. You think that's writing? So I said nothing. But every night, I wrote. And every morning, I lived like usual. Groceries. Laundry. Dishes. But in my mind, Eleanor was growing. She was angry now. Quietly angry. I could feel it in her walk. She wanted to be heard. And somehow, she trusted me to speak. I jotted lines on receipts. Typed ideas into notes while stirring soup. Once, I missed a call because I was rewriting one sentence in my head. Every day, she got louder. Clearer. And I got braver. But still, the doubt whispered. What if it's dumb? What if no one cares? What if I'm just pretending to be a writer? But then I'd open the document. And she'd be there. Waiting. 3 months. Every single night. No one knew. It was mine. Just mine. Then one night, I typed the last line. Stared at it. Reread it. And I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there in the dark. Smiling. Because it was done. My first book. Finished. 3 months. 3 months of late nights, secret writing, shaky confidence. And now, the book was done. It was real. It had a title. It had a heartbeat. The Silent Drowning, by Ari Hart. I didn't want my name on it. Not yet. I wanted it to live on its own. Free from expectations. Free from him. I waited until David went to bed. Poured myself a cup of tea. Sat in the dark. Amazon KDP dashboard. Fingers trembling. There it was. The publish button. One click. And just like that, it was out there. Floating in the world. I stared at the screen. Didn't move for minutes. I didn't know if anyone would read it. Didn't know if anyone would care. But I had done it. And that already felt like enough. Except it wasn't. The next morning, something changed. Ping. An email. You've sold your first copy. Then another. Ping. You've received a new review. I opened it. Couldn't stop reading. This book wrecked me in the best way. I didn't breathe for 5 seconds. Then laughed. Out loud. Alone in the kitchen. By day 3, more sales. By day 7, it was picking up speed. Reviews poured in. Some short. Some heartfelt. A voice I didn't know I needed. Raw, beautiful, real. Every word landed like a spark. I checked the dashboard every hour. Watched the numbers tick up like magic. David didn't notice. Too busy editing his latest draft. And I was flying. 2 weeks in, an email from Amazon. Congratulations. Your title has entered the top 20 in women's fiction. I stared at that sentence for a full minute. Top 20. Me. I covered my mouth with my hand. Laughed. Then cried. Then laughed again. This thing I wrote. At night. In secret. In silence. It was real. It was being read. And I wanted to tell him. I wanted him to look at me and see it. See me. Maybe he'd be surprised. Maybe he'd be proud. Tomorrow. At breakfast. I'd tell him. Morning. The kitchen was quiet. Sun through the blinds. Kettle whistling low. David sat at the table, robe half open, scrolling his phone like always. Toast in one hand. Coffee in the other. I was about to say it. I had the sentence in my mouth. I have to tell you something. I wrote a book. I'm Ari Hart. But then he froze. His thumb hovered. Frowned. Who the hell is this? He muttered. Read from the screen. The Silent Drowning, by Ari Hart, top 20 women's fiction. My heart stopped. He tilted his head, narrowed his eyes. Another cheesy women's novel, he said, smirking. These newbies get so lucky. No depth. Just TikTok hype and emotional garbage. Talent doesn't even matter anymore. I was holding the coffee pot. I didn't move. Inside, something cracked. Not shattered. Not broken. Cracked. Because he didn't know. He was talking about me. Tearing apart my work. Mocking my voice. The same man I'd stood behind for 10 years. The same man who told me what real literature sounded like. The same man I admired. I poured the coffee slowly, sat down across from him. He kept scrolling, kept talking, said something about the decline of publishing, about algorithms ruining art. I didn't hear the rest. I just smiled, nodded, but inside it burned. I wanted to scream. I'm Ari Hart. That cheesy women's novel you just trashed? That's me. But I didn't. Not because I was afraid. Not even because of him. Because in that moment, I realized something. He didn't want to see me. Not really. And maybe I wasn't ready to be seen by him either. So I stayed quiet, drank my coffee, listened to him ramble, and thought, he has no idea. It was early, 6:42 a.m. House still quiet. David asleep. I padded into the kitchen, barefoot, kettle on, phone in hand, inbox full of junk, promotions, subscriptions, newsletters I never read. One email stood out. Subject, Ari Hart, let's talk. Sender, HarperCollins. My thumb hovered. My breath stopped. I tapped it open. The first line. We believe Ari Hart has a unique voice. I didn't read the rest at first. I just stared at that one sentence. Hands trembling. Kettle whistling. World frozen. Then I scrolled down. An editor, real, named, from HarperCollins, had found my work. He said he'd come across my latest stories on a smaller online platform. He said he stayed up late reading. He said he saw something honest, sharp, emotionally brave. He asked if I'd be open to discussing a print deal. A print deal. With HarperCollins. I dropped into the kitchen chair like my legs had disappeared. Everything felt like static. I reread the email. Once. Twice. 5 times. It didn't feel real. I whispered out loud. Oh my God. Because this wasn't just a good review. This wasn't a nice comment or a lucky rank. This was publishing. Big league. Real world. My dream. And they didn't know who I was. They thought I was someone else. Someone more. More than a wife, more than a list maker, more than a background. They saw my words. And that was enough. I clutched the phone like it might disappear. Behind me, David stirred in the hallway. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. I didn't want to share this yet. Not with him. Not with anyone. Because this moment, this one, right here, was mine. 1 week later, I was calm, but not the kind of calm you show. The kind that shakes inside your bones. We'd had the Zoom call. The editor was kind, smart, sharp. He said things like, your voice is fresh. Your pacing is intuitive. You're not writing like someone who's guessing. He didn't know he was talking to a housewife in a sweater, sitting on the floor of the laundry room with her laptop balanced on a basket. He called me Ari. He didn't know my real name. And somehow that made it better. I smiled through the call, nodded, jotted notes. Professional. Focused. Inside, I was on fire. 3 days later, it came. The contract. PDF. Subject line. HarperCollins author agreement. I opened it alone. David was home, upstairs. But I was careful. Phone on silent. Laptop brightness low. Coffee beside me. Hands cold. I scrolled. Slowly. Advance. Spring print release. Full marketing support. I stared at the HarperCollins logo for a long time. This wasn't Wattpad. Wasn't self-publishing. Wasn't luck. This was real. And they chose me. No one pulled strings. No one held my hand. No one even knew who I was. I reached the signature line. The words felt like lightning. Sign here to confirm you are the author of The Silent Drowning. I stared at it. One more breath. Then a click. Document signed. The room didn't explode. David didn't storm in. No one cheered. The house was still. Soup simmered on the stove. The fridge hummed. But inside me, everything shifted. I wasn't just someone's wife anymore. I wasn't Rachel who reads too much. I wasn't the woman who writes grocery lists. I was a published author, with a real contract, and a book going to print. He didn't know. Not yet. I was in my room. Laptop open. Editing chapter 3. A new sentence, a tighter pause, cleaner rhythm. Focused. Calm. For once, fully inside my world. David was in the kitchen. Tom had just left. I heard the door close, then silence. I assumed he was scrolling or cleaning up the bottles. I didn't care. We weren't in each other's way that night. I didn't know. Didn't hear the moment it happened. Didn't see his face shift. But he had his phone. He was scrolling. He typed in a name. Ari Hart. He opened TikTok. And there it was. A girl's voice, glowing. This book, it wrecked me. I used to dream in silence, and then I read her. The cover flashed on screen. The silent drowning. The quote? Mine. I used to dream in silence. I've said it 100 times. He stopped breathing. Click the blurb. Read the first name. Eleanor. His mother's name. Coincidence? No. He knew. He opened Kindle. Bought the book. Started reading. The first scene, our kitchen. Word for word. But in the book, it was the mother's line, not mine. Still, he remembered. Every sentence. Every pause. Every echo. He closed the Kindle. Sat there. Still. I didn't know any of this. I was next door. I thought he was watching a show. Sipping tea. I didn't know he was seeing me. The real me. The one I kept in the dark for months. The one who'd written it all down. Morning. Soft light through the blinds. I was already up, humming, boiling water. He walked in, pale, eyes dry, movement stiff. I thought maybe he'd had a bad dream. Didn't know he hadn't slept at all. Didn't know he'd spent the entire night reading my book. Cover to cover. Didn't know every page cut him. Not because it was cruel, but because it was true. Our words. Our fights. Our Florence trip. That one conversation in the car, the one I never forgot, and he thought I had. Lines he once wrote in his own draft. Tossed, deleted, forgotten. And now, reimagined. Alive. He read them in someone else's voice. My voice. Not as his wife. As a writer. And he couldn't handle it. Not the sentences. Not the praise. Not the fact that I did it, without him. I thought we were okay. I thought today was ordinary. The soup simmering. The kettle hissing. The silence comfortable, I assumed. But upstairs, in his office, he was opening his laptop. His fingers shook. Not from rage. From something worse. Humiliation. He typed it carefully. Legal. Cold. Sharp. I am the husband of Rachel Hart, known as Ari Hart. In her book, The Silent Drowning, personal details from our private life were used without consent. Direct quotes. Specific scenes. Emotional conflicts I was part of. This violates my personal and intellectual rights. I request removal or revision in future editions. He had sinned. Closed the laptop. Breathed. Revenge clean, quiet, formal. The kind that leaves no fingerprints. He walked back down like nothing happened. I was setting the table. Happy. Light. Still believing I was safe. I looked up and smiled. Coffee. He nodded. Returned my smile. Eyes calm. Hands folded. But something in the room had changed. Not loud. Not visible. Just still. Like the moment right before thunder. Morning. Soft light through the blinds. I walked barefoot into the kitchen. Turned on the kettle. Phone in hand. Checked my email without thinking. And there it was. Subject, regarding a complaint about the silent drowning. I blinked. Opened it. Hi, Rachel. Just a heads up. We've received a formal complaint. A man named David Monroe. Says he's the inspiration for one of the characters. Claims the manuscript includes personal references. Can you confirm? I read it twice. Then again. Set the phone down on the table. Saturday. The kettle whistled. I didn't move. Behind me, I heard him. Footsteps. The fridge. The cereal box. He walked in like it was just another morning. Like nothing happened. Got a bowl. Poured the milk. Turned around. Looked at me. What? He said. Something wrong. I looked at him. Really looked. So casual. So collected. So false. And I said it. Calm. You really sent it? He paused. Then shrugged. It's just business, he said. You wrote about me. I have the right to protect myself. Protect himself. From what? My words? My story? My voice finally being heard? He thought this was power. Thought he'd done something clever. But all he'd done was show me who he really was. I stood up, walked to the hall, opened the closet, took out a suitcase. He followed. You're overreacting, he said. You're blowing this out of proportion. I didn't even look at him. Just unzipped the suitcase. Then I turned. Met his eyes. No, I said. I'm finally reacting. I packed quietly, deliberately. No screaming, no plates flying, just movement. Forward, out of the house, out of the silence, out of his shadow, to the place where my own story begins. How do you like this story? If I were in Rachel's place, I wouldn't have been able to hide the success of my book from my husband. She was probably too afraid of wounding his male ego. In the end, it turned out even worse for both him and her. What would you have done in Rachel's place? Write in the comments. Subscribe, more untold stories are on the way.